Hello, this is the Lord's Legion and welcome to the best villains ever, the show in which I talk about a specific villain and talk about their backstories, abilities, greatest feats, and why I love them so much. And every year I would like to do at least 1 or 2 Halloween specials, and given how the brand new Halloween film has been released a little over a week ago, now I think it's the perfect time to talk about who many people consider to be the human embodiment of evil, and is often referred to as the Shape, Michael Myers. I'm sure I should have made this video around the same time as the new Halloween film, but honestly I think it's more fitting to do it on Halloween night. So without further ado, let's begin with his very brief backstory. So Michael Audrey Myers lived in a suburban town in Haddonfield, Illinois, alongside his parents, his older sister named Judith, and a younger sister who we would eventually learn would be Laurie Strode, the latter of which only depends on which timeline you go by, and most recently that has been retconned. But since Michael Myers was 6, he claims that he suffers from bizarre nightmares and can hear a voice in his head who would tell him to do things. And on Halloween of 1963, Michael committed his first act of murder by stabbing his older sister Judith to death multiple times with a butcher knife, and presumably it was the voices in Michael's head that convinced him into doing so. And after he committed his first murder, he was ultimately sent to Smith's Grove Sanitarium, where he became the patient of Dr. Sam Loomis. And while he was at the sanitarium for 15 years, he would barely ever move or even say a word, and inevitably Michael Myers would escape and cause chaos to his childhood home. Now looking back on Michael's origin, you can see that it is pretty much bare bones, but at the same time there is this mystique to the character. And to me it's kinda open to interpretation in that you can fill some of the gaps. But to me what makes Michael Myers such a threatening enemy is the fact that he is just the human embodiment of evil and there's like no form of humanity in his soul. And the fact that there's no real definitive answer behind Michael's madness just makes him all the more appealing in my eyes. I'm sure they've tried to expand on his lore and his origin in some of the later sequels, but in the long run it just caused more harm than good to Michael Myers, because it just made him less scary. Now depending on who you ask or which version of Michael Myers you focus on, in some versions he does have some powers and abilities at his disposal. Though the essentials of Michael Myers is the fact that he is a master of stealth and can easily escape from certain situations. But not only that, Michael Myers is very good at stalking his prey, and he is also very sufficient with any form of weaponry, most specifically when it comes down to melee weapons such as knives. As for the more supernatural side of Michael's abilities, he does possess superhuman strength. But not only that, Michael Myers also has invulnerability, or at the very least he does have a very high pain resistance, to the point where some people would deem the Shape to be immortal. But the most bizarre ability that Michael has is the fact that he does have some form of possession, although that was only ever explored in Halloween 5, and it hasn't really been touched on ever since. Now there's no denying that Michael Myers has achieved plenty of impressive feats and kills ever since his inception 40 years ago. And so I want to look back on some of the most memorable kills from Michael Myers, and bear in mind none of them are in any particular order, but all of the deaths that I'm going to be mentioning here are those that spring to my mind the most. And given how there are so many kills to choose from, chances are I'm going to miss quite a few. Of course we already have Judith's death that has been previously mentioned, but the way it was handled with the point of view shot before it was revealed that it was coming from a kid just makes things all the more surprising to me at first viewing. And then we also have Bob's death from the original Halloween, which I believe is a very iconic death and is probably the one that springs to my mind the most, especially since there has been a lot of variations on that similar death from other sequels and reboots. Plus we also have Sarah's death from Halloween H2O, which I thought was very intense, and it's probably the most memorable death in Halloween H2O. And as much as I absolutely despise Halloween 6, the film has some pretty neat kills such as John Strode's death, where he gets electrocuted to the point where his head explodes. And then we also have the very first kill in Halloween 4 where Michael Myers escapes and kills a doctor, slamming his head against the wall multiple times and then crushing his skull. Not to mention we also have Linda's death from the original, where we see Michael Myers in complete white chic ghost attire, while strangling Linda with a phone cord. And then following up with Halloween 2, where we see Michael Myers killing a nurse by dipping her head in the hot tub, in what I also consider to be one of his most iconic kills. And then speaking of iconic kills, we also have Michael Myers sneaking up behind a woman inside a car and just killing her. And then we continue on with the nurse killing spree in Halloween 2, where we get to see Michael Myers stabbing a nurse with a syringe. And then we also have what I would consider to be the most disturbing kill of them all, in my opinion at least, Jamie Lloyd's death in Halloween 6. And no matter how many times I watch this death scene, I find it rather difficult to watch. Now as for the reboot, we also have young Michael Myers killing a bully by beating him to death with a baseball bat, which I think is probably one of the best kills from the reboot series. And then we also have the brutal stabbings in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, not because I think it's brutal or anything, I just find it rather goofy than anything else. And he even takes some inspiration from Jason Voorhees by killing 2 teenagers whilst they were still having sex. And I could just as easily add majority of the deaths in Halloween 2018, but if I did so, then that would lead into some spoiler territory. But all I can say is, just watch the movie for yourself because it's really that good. Now at this point in the video, I would talk about different incarnations of each villain, and so in that case, I may as well dedicate this time to talk about Rob Zombie's incarnation of Michael Myers. Because there's quite a lot to talk about this version of Michael Myers, because people are split down the middle. And to tell you the truth, I don't really mind Rob Zombie's take on Michael Myers. Sure, I prefer the original over Rob Zombie's version, but I do appreciate what he was trying to do with the character. And I do understand that many people don't like the idea of the reboot series and how it was focusing more on Michael Myers' origin, but to Rob Zombie's credit, at least he was trying something new with the character, and the fact that the reboot series focused more on his origin gave it more of a reason for its existence as opposed to just being a shot-for-shot remake. At the end of the day, Rob Zombie was trying to make Michael Myers more brutal and grounded, and while I wouldn't say all of it works, at the very least Rob Zombie still kept Michael Myers threatening, and I can understand on as to why some people would enjoy this incarnation of Michael Myers, even though I much more prefer the original. But I think what ultimately makes Michael Myers such a threatening enemy is the fact that he is the human embodiment of evil. And in a way, Michael Myers is living proof in that evil never dies. And there's no real method behind his madness, mainly because of how unpredictable he is. And the fact that Michael Myers is nothing but pure evil, you can understand on as to why some people would consider Michael Myers to be the most despicable out of all of the horror icons. Because while Jason Voorhees is somewhat misunderstood, and Freddy Krueger has a lot of personality behind him, Michael Myers is pretty much darkness incarnate. So because of his unpredictable nature, as well as some very brutal kills he has managed over the years, and above all else just being a fascinating horror icon, this is why I personally believe that Michael Myers is one of the best villains of all time. So are you a huge fan of Michael Myers, and what is your personal favourite Halloween movie? And also, what are some of your personal favourite kills from The Shape? Comment below and share some thoughts. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Take care and have a good one.